So good morning to you all, and good morning to you also who are following us online. Apologies for the delay. I know if you're online and you're waiting and nobody's turning up on stage, you just think, am I in the right place? Yes, you are. But we're in Brussels and everything starts a few minutes late, as you probably already know. So good morning to you, and welcome to this particular presentation. Thanks for joining us at the Press Club. We're here today to announce the launch of Terra Madre Europe, and that is a very special event that's going to take place on the 22nd, from the 22nd to the 24th of June here in Brussels. So we're going to hear much more about that in a few minutes from our speakers. But Terra Madre Europe is a major event, a major initiative taken by Slow Food, and these 2 days are going to bring together farmers, chefs, food producers, activists, and policymakers, all focused on a very specific approach with the aim to maybe change the future of our food systems at large. So we're talking a very broad approach. We have some very distinguished and competent panelists joining us this morning to discuss two very specific aspects in relation to the future of our food systems. We'll be talking about the type of models that we need in view of today's global and European crises, and we'll also be talking about how the European food policy can and should evolve, and what the role of civil society can be in that evolution. So it's a pleasure to welcome this morning Marta Messa. Marta is the Secretary General of Slow Food. Next to her is Henriette Christensen. She's the Executive Director of Agroecology Europe. And next to her is Yannick Schandené. He's the coordinator of the Slow Food Earth Market in Brussels. That's going to be part of that Terra Madre Europe event at the end of June. And he's also a food producer, and he's going to explain to us how not only do the two fit together, but how he brings one experience into the other. So Marta, I'd like to start with you. Worrying geopolitical tensions at the moment, environmental degradations, social inequalities, a very worrying context in which you are bringing new views. So how do you think the food system that Slow Food is advocating for is going to work? Or rather, I should say, how do you think the food systems, because you use food systems in the plural form, so maybe you can also explain that and how that fits in with the event on 22nd to 24th of June.
Yes. Thank you very much, and good morning, everyone. Yes, it is on. So yes, we're talking about food systems because, especially as a global organization, we're witnessing the existence of very different food systems globally. Food systems are really about the relationships that exist from food production, actually even the planning of food production, all the way to food consumption. And what we're imagining is really diversified agroecological food systems. And I'm very happy that we have Henriette and Yannick with us, because it's they bring in two other perspectives around this, with Yannick having a very concrete example of how that works. We were just discussing it here as we were waiting for the journalists about the relationships really that are put in place in agroecological food systems. And maybe just first a clarification what agroecology is, and then again, Henriette, feel free to chime in to complete. But agroecology is about, it's a social movement, it's a science as well, and it's really about a set of principles that are being applied in food systems. It's not just about what happens in the field, but it's about also what happens past the farm gate. And being a set of principles, it's not prescriptive, you have to do this or that, but if the principle is synergy, there are different ways, very different ways of applying synergy, whether you're working in Belgium, like we are here today, or whether you're working in I don't know, in Mexico or Uganda or in a totally different part of the world. So it's a set of principles that can and should be adapted to the local context. I'm saying this also because when we get into policy debates, and both Henriette and I are part of the European Board on Agriculture and Food of the European Commission, working with Commissioner Ranson, there's often this tension about what do we need to do, and agroecology offers this adaptability to the context and recognizing the role that farmers and food producers play in knowing the settings in which they work and adapting their work. So, and in this sense, just to complete the overview, but when we talk about diversified agroecological food systems, we're really looking at food systems that grow food first and foremost for the local communities and not for faraway markets, that are anchored in the biodiversity. And when we talk about the biodiversity, it's the biodiversity of crops, of breeds that we have lost significantly in the last 60 years, and also the biodiversity of food cultures, where food culture goes from, and Yannick is an example of this, but the knowledge of how you process food, the knowledge about the production, but also the transformation of food products, all the way to the fantastic dishes that cooks put together and that give value to the products in the first place. And it's this biodiversity where we should also anchor the competitiveness of our food system. So competitiveness is one of the buzzwords of the Commission right now. Yesterday there was just a publication of the package on simplification and competitiveness. When we talk about competitiveness as low food, it's a competitiveness that is not the race to the bottom, the highest quantity for the lowest price, but it's about the diversity that makes every food culture, food region, food product unique to that specific setting, and that we should really value also in terms of resilience. In finance they talk about diversifying risks. In nature, food biodiversity is a way of diversifying risk, especially in the situation we're facing nowadays. And just to complete, in diversified agroecological food systems, again, it's about the food systems as a whole, so we're also imagining. And it's not just imagining, we're seeing that in action, and again, Yannick is an example, but it's where you have plant-rich, diversified, seasonal, and also very good tasting diets available and accessible to everyone. So it's also an issue of the accessibility to good, clean, and fair food, as we said, slow food. Maybe I'll stop here so there is also enough time for the other speakers.
Okay. Before you stop, maybe just a few points about what is actually going to happen between the 22nd and the 24th of June. Broad lines, and maybe we can come back to that, or we can have direct questions.
Yeah, first maybe just a question of setting. What we're trying to do is something innovative. So we've been organizing Terra Madres since 2004, 20 years ago, the first edition being in Turin, Italy, and that's where we have every year an international event. But for instance, this year we're organizing a Terra Madre Europe, a Terra Madre Asia and the Pacific, and a Terra Madre Americas, so in different parts of the world, clearly. And the whole idea is that of relationships, which is also very much what agroecology is about and what slow food is about. It's about an innovative format where it's constructive, it's creating dialogue, and we're really using food as an entry point to engage in some much more complicated discussions. I'm saying this also because, especially here in Europe, we see often a lot of tension, and also, can I say, last year, of course, we all witnessed a farmers' protest that had very many different souls, very, very many different messages. And if you want here, like, the approach is entirely different. We want, a constructive event where we're offering something nice and pleasant to engage in the discussion, and that's as a starting point. So broad strokes on the event. It starts on the 22nd with the launch of the first slow food earth market in Belgium. Earth markets, slow food earth markets, basically exist all around the world, and they are based again on, they're farmers' markets, so it's farmers that sell directly, it's not resellers. And there is a set of criteria, again, agroecological criteria that these producers need to respect. And what's to be said about the slow food earth markets is that it's not just a place where you sell, but it's really a learning space where there is a meeting between the producer and the consumer, and where we raise awareness. And it also becomes, if you want, a place of advocacy, because that's where we advocate for different food systems. And so on the 22nd, we'll launch the very first slow food earth market. So Yannick is here also to say more about that at B here. And there will be around 20 local and Belgian producers. precisely because it's a learning event, there will also be 2 workshops, one for kids and one on fermentation.
3 in total.
3 in total, actually. Sorry, I missed one. So 3 workshops that you will be able to sign up to. And very important, we'll also organize a meeting of all the Belgian partners that are working on agroecology to strategize together about how can we move forward, can we promote agroecology together with each organization having its own atout, as you say in French, but its own specific approach. On Monday, June 23rd, there is a set of activities that are more targeted to the network. So we're going to have a European meeting of slow food cooks. They will visit the very first slow food farm in Belgium, which is the Foster Farm Rosière, in Rosière. Slow food farms were just launched last year, and it's again a global network of agroecological farms. To date, we have about 150 of them registered, and it's again about elevating, promoting agroecological farmers. And then on Tuesday, June 24th, there will be, in the afternoon, a conference followed by a testing session that is going to happen in the format of a market again. So as the market is a place for learning and exchange, we will recreate the setting of a market with one producer from every European member state, one slow food producer from every European member state, each bringing a different kind of expertise, whether it's animal welfare, biodiversity, soil management, and so on. We'll kick off indeed with a conference. But then really the idea is to put the farmers and the producers center stage and invite the audience to engage with them. That's going to be the core of the event. And again, it's an innovative way of, instead of having farmers in the streets, we have farmers with their products offering you a tasting, and from there engaging in the discussion. And just right after that, there will be around, by now I think 10 restaurants confirmed, but about 10 restaurants in Brussels where there will be a local Belgian cook cooking together with another European slow food cook, so dîner à quatre mains. Again, showcasing, putting in your plates like this diversity of knowledge and products, and bringing it to the Belgian public.
Thank you very much. A very full program. I'm sure you've taken notes, but you will receive all sorts of background info about that. And of course, our speakers are happy to answer questions. Henrietta, I'd like to pick up on the description that Marta just gave us, and how important is it, in your view, to take these agroecological practices in the shaping of policies, because it has to be done upstream. So why is it so important, in order to do so, to build coalitions, to build alliances with other like-minded organizations?
Thank you for your question. I don't know if all of you know who we are, so I hope you don't mind that I explain a little bit who we are, just so you know who you have in front of you. So we are Agroecology Europe. We have been a Brussels-based NGO since the last 10 years. Next year we're celebrating our 10 years anniversary. We have around 200 members. They are both associations, this is universities, and it's also individual and movement. So we group a big amount of association, but then we also have 300 young people who are joining us in the youth network, because there are more and more masters on agroecology, and therefore it's also a way for them to find job and help the movement grow. So like Marta was saying, we promote the elements. We call them the principles. So we promote the 13 principles of agroecology. And like Marta also was saying, it's not only about practices, it's about our agroecological practices. It's also about the food system transition. So we are totally in line with what Marta is saying here. What we do is that we do research, so there are more and more research on agroecology coming up, there are more and more scientific papers, and we do mapping. So we are very soon we will publish a mapping also on Belgium actors. So we have asked our young people to map agroecological practices around Belgium, and this will be published I think only in July though. So after your event, but maybe we can build on that. And then we also aim at moving towards creating a movement. So we are creating local networks to build up a European movement. And then we do the advocacy. So we are very thankful that you are doing this market. It's perfectly fine, especially now with this political situation we're in. It's very good to show it's already happening. We're not asking something else. Because this is also what we do. We do more and more. We start talking about silent agroecology. So these are all the many farmers who are actually already doing one or two or several of the agroecological practices. They just don't know. They just don't know what it's called. So for us now, we try to reach out and say, come on, you can do this. This is not about politics. This is about technique, and we can walk the talk, whatever it's called. So this is, yeah, it's fantastic you're doing this market. So coming back to you, why it's important for agroecology to be high on the EU agenda, it is that agroecology is not about one thing or the other. It's not only about cover crop, or it's not only about crop rotation. It's about a combination of methods. And like Marta was also saying, you don't necessarily all start the same place, but you start maybe. Whatever, you can start by doing cover crops, and then you start doing something else, and you start, less simplification, not only potatoes, you start doing pumpkins, but then you need more knowledge, you need a market for your pumpkins. So it's a process. So you will go through the different 13 principles, but you might do it in individual ways to get to the principle. And so this is why when we in EU policy making would be very interested that the common agriculture policy, when it's being reformed, that there will be an overall objective in the next CAP reform to have agroecology as an overall target, because this is both economic, it's environmental, and its social aspect all goes into the agroecology, and it also goes into the CAP. So I think it would fit very well together. Designers, anything?
No, I think it's all clear, and that explains very clearly why alliances and coordination and cooperation are so important. Yannick, Marta mentioned the importance of relationships, and Henrietta just built on it. Now, you're part of a community, and you're also involved in slow food, as we heard the coordinator of the slow food Earth Market for the June event. So I'd like you to maybe tell us, first of all, what it means concretely to be the coordinator of that market, what's in it, and also looking more or taking more of a helicopter view, what you think that consumers need in order to enjoy better food systems.
Thank you. So the slow food market, the idea of the Earth market is a bit not only to have market to facilitate towards the consumers itself, but also to create real connections between chefs, transformators, and producers. We all know, especially the last couple of months when I met most of those people, they're all passionate people that really love their product. If they are in the agroecological movement, they do it by passion and by really believing in that way, but it makes it also a bit difficult for them to be at the same time a producer, a seller, a coordinator, an administrative person. And so for us, building up that slow food Earth market is to facilitate the part of the selling and administrative part, to really that everybody can concentrate on their production, on being a chef, on being a transformator. So what we want to do is not only have those events where everybody meets and they meet also the consumers, but also have moments where the chefs are invited to go meet the producers, learn the craft, learn what they do, and have another moment where they really focus on how to build up that B2B part, to have the short, circuit court. Short supply chain, a short supply chain, to have it more easier for them to only be working around their products and not needing to think about what is the logistics ways. Because sometimes we find a great producer in the middle of the coast, for example. How do we get him to Brussels and not have to just bring 5 kilo, 10 kilo of a certain fish, but be able to have immediately 50, 60 sales and come to the market at the end to showcase also. So the market is a bit the end result of everything else that is put in place. What's also the goal of the market? As I'm also more a transformator, so I do fermentation, we have a lot of discussions with our clients about seasonality and about also people not really knowing what is still in season, and also having that reflex, if you have a produce, to wanting to have it all year long. Doing the opposite and breaking, saying, okay, no, you will not have jalapenos now because season is over, is in the beginning a quite difficult position because you want to be selling to everybody, but after a time that education changes in, they're also more thinking about the seasonality and knowing that, okay, it will be coming back next year, and having that pleasure. Showcasing and selecting at the earth market producers that will be in season and selling really specific season will showcase to the public what's available at the moment. We're ending the market with also a dinner where the producers are invited to sit next to the guests and to then explain what they are making, while there will be dishes with only the products of the market. So it's for us really that whole process of seasonality connection that will be really important in the earth market. We're also adding a conference this time around tomato and about the industrial impact and problematic. Tomato is such a product that we think it's available all the time, that is easy and that is mostly like clean in a certain way they think, but there is such a big mess around tomato production on an industrial level, and that's also what we want to then bring to the table on those markets.
Thank you very much. I'd like to open the floor to questions, and if you want clarifications either about the event or about the overall context. Yes, please. Maybe do we have an extra mic? Otherwise, it's just because of the people online. Look, I'll lend you mine. We'll just make it easy.
Okay. Hello. Thank you. Oop.
You can even actually pull it.
Okay. Thank you. Oops. Thank you very much for this conference. I'm Natasha Foote. I work as a journalist here. I think I know most of you. But very exciting that you're going to be doing a Terra Madre Europe. I've been to the Italian one, and it was phenomenal. I've been twice. So my first very important question is how we get invited to these dinners and these tastings. Can journalists come along? Is there a little space for me to come along? And my second question is, this will come at a quite crucial time before some very big announcements at the EU level, so the next CAP reform, the MFF, I know you know all too well. I just wanted to hear from you. I know you said there would also be policymakers coming as well, but I think I've heard more about this link with the consumers and the B2B market. So I'm wondering what kind of policymakers will be involved, if you have a good idea already. Is it just EU level, national, and how you're planning to make those linkages there with the policy, if you are planning to, with the policy side of things, considering as well the specific moment that it will land. Yeah, thank you.
You can, I think you can maybe answer that question because it's quite specific and broad at the same time. And I think the point about how can journalists be invited is of interest to everybody else as well. So
you're officially invited to everything. For the workshops on Sunday, soon there will be the possibility of registering online. So there is already the page of the Slow Food Earth Market. It's going to be linked also to the page of the whole program of the event. So there you can sign up, and you're officially invited. And also for the dinners on the 24th, my colleague Alessia Potas was sitting there in the back, but she can liaise with you. And of course, we're doing also this whole exercise to work around the narrative that prevails here in Brussels. I would say this way, and we've discussed it before, but at times there is this tension or perceived, division between farmers, as though it's just one big single community, and other kinds of environmental, social ambition. And the reality is that we have a very different range of farmers and food systems, farming realities, and producers as well. And we're showcasing here the agroecological farmers. We're not showcasing here the big agribusinesses that are vouching for certain policies. We're presenting here essentially the diversity of farming voices that exist in Europe. So that's why I'm also really saying you're officially invited, because we also need the press to pick up on these nuances and these different voices that exist and that often don't get listened to in Brussels. That's why we're bringing them to town. That's why, because we want them to engage with you. Then, in terms of the policymakers, yes, we're targeting largely European policymakers. We're also looking at how we can involve the Danish presidency, because indeed just at the end of June the Polish presidency of the European Council will come to an end, and then the Danish one will start. One of the topics, for instance, that will be discussed by the Danish presidency and that we want to discuss with them as well is the seed legislation, where there's the whole issue of the freedom of exchange of seeds between small-scale farmers, which is really important to us as well as to other partners. And of course, we've reached out to Commissioner Ranson, who has, when he was going through his hearing, was talking about, really wanting to meet the farming community and be a commissioner with foot on the ground. So we also started discussing with his cabinet about possibilities for him to visit realities on the ground. And at the moment, it's really largely EU decision makers that we're targeting, precisely because of all the big policy files that we're just mentioning now. One that I also want to mention, because it's important, it's coming up, is the NGTs, so the new genomic techniques, or as we call them with partner organizations, new GMOs, reason being that also the European Court of Justice said they should be treated as GMOs. And of course, we'll carve around, with all these fantastic producers in town, we'll carve around moments to also engage bilaterally with decision makers, also with the Agri-Commission and so on. So yes, I hope that answers your question.
Yes, it does. Anybody else? I'm standing here so that I can pass on the mic. Any other questions? Yes, please.
Yeah, not. Well,
it's on.
It's on? Okay. Not strictly related to the Terra Madre, great initiative. I would like to know right now the relationship with Commissioner Ranson, consider that we passed from green to competitiveness in few months. It has been a big change. And another, probably I didn't understand, but the earth market will be based constantly here in Brussels? Yeah, and I would like to know better how it will work, because I know that a lot of restaurants, especially the particular one, more, with raw materials from small farmers are closing because there is a huge problem of prices. So how do you think to act about that?
Thank you. So Marta, yes, and then Yannick.
Yeah, a certain Commissioner Ranson. So I would say we're still at the beginning of the relationship, meaning, of course, we have clear signals from the Commission. There was just a conference last week on the vision that Commissioner Ranson published on agriculture and food. And we've been voicing, of course, our wishes and criticism as well of what we saw working or not working. As mentioned, so I am personally part of the European Board of Agriculture and Food, together, for instance, with Henriette. And we actually have a meeting next week, Monday, Tuesday, directly with Commissioner Ranson to build on the vision. So the European Board for Agriculture and Food was set up so that Commissioner Ranson would have a group of experts representing the different stakeholders working together to implement the vision. Now, for instance, one of the things that we already voiced from the very beginning as a recommendation, afterwards as a criticism to the vision, is that we must have a food systems approach if we want really to advance in agri and food policies, because after all, Commissioner Ranson is the Commissioner for Agriculture and Food. And so, to be honest, we still need to get into really the workings of the EBAF. So we're very much for a constructive approach, where we've also been very clear about our expectations and that we want this working group to be something effective, and that it's not just a talking shop, because we've had enough of those. But as Iba Fuli is just having the second meeting next week, that's what I'm saying, is still the beginning of this relationship, and there is opportunity there to really work together on a number of proposals. We'll have to see exactly how that will be coordinated and how effective it will be, but we're working closely with partners to make sure that, we hold the Commission accountable to make this group work.
Before I pass on to Yannick, maybe Henrietta, you'd like to add something about that particular aspect of policy and relationship to the Commissioner for Agriculture and Food, because indeed that was a very specific move by the Commission to have food included in the overall responsibilities.
Yes, which makes it even more interesting that in the strategic dialogue that we were also part of, which were 29, I think, stakeholders who were sitting and making a joint appeal before the vision, it says clearly that agroecology is practices and food system transition. Oh, it says oh. So we didn't win it all. We would have liked and food system. We got food system. But what is interesting now in the vision is that the food system is gone. So it only makes reference to agroecology when it talks about farming practices. So for us, there is a fight to fight, which make your event even more relevant because it shows how to do it. So thank you for organizing it.
Yannick, so how about the earth market?
So the vision that we have for the earth market is to really have at least 4 earth markets in Brussels. 4, so every semester there will be one earth market, so we can also again work on the seasons, work with other type of producers at other times of the year, and hopefully find also spots in Wallonia, spot in Flanders to showcase whatever is happening in Flanders, whatever is happening in Wallonia, with the rhythm being the first month really connecting the chefs and the producers. So having the chefs go to a producer, meet them, talk really about what's happening on the space itself. A second month to more see how to systematically organize the logistics, so to have B2B partners, logistic partners like the Gassap or like the Entier for meat, for example, because it's also a goal, and it's true that at the moment it's not really quite positive in Brussels on the restaurant business level. Even one of the co-founders of the Slow Food Belgium is somebody that just closed her restaurant, but is wanting to continue to work on the policies. It's Chabrol in Schaerbeek. So the two women, two sisters, closed their shop, but they entered still Slow Food Belgium to continue on thinking about it. I think also there is often chefs are a bit solo on their island of a restaurant. They have their difficulties, but we don't talk a lot about our own difficulties, but they're often the same. And we hope through that slow food moments to really connect and talk about those realities and maybe also find solutions. And the logistic hub is one of those things where we can get quality food also at good prices for everybody. So that's a bit one of those ideas to limit the costs and also time, because the chefs don't have always the time to go look on their own. If a group of people select for everybody, say, okay, these are really good producers, we can start working with them. So it is to battle a bit that that those systematic problems in restaurants and hopefully find solutions.
So more relationship building, really. Yes, please.
You want me to go?
Yeah, I'm afraid my cable is not going to go all the way down there.
Thank you very much. Very interesting. I would like to know, because when we talk about this kind of initiative, we talk a lot about farming, but I wanted to know if the fisheries and aquaculture sector are also part of this conversation, and to what extent they are part of the event. Yeah. Thank you.
Very good question. Yes, they are part the discussion altogether, not so much in EBUF, but anyways, they're part of the work that we do as Slow Food. We, in fact, also have developed over time a Slow Fish network, and specifically looking at the event, we're going to have a fish producer participating. I think actually from the Nordic countries, I think from Denmark even. So they're going to be part of the conversation and of the event itself. I'm not sure about the Earth market, but
not this time. But the goal is that. So not this time, because we asked couple of producers that we knew about, but they couldn't be there 22. But the idea is to have one representative of each type of production. So a fisher, a meat producer, a cheese producer. So we select, and it will also be the idea to always change, have other people to enter the conversation.
Any other question, point, idea, request? No? Okay, just a quick concluding round, maybe with our panelists. A short couple of sentences message on what we've talked about, the two aspects of policy and the relationships building behind it.
Absolutely. So maybe one thing that I hope you can glean or see from even just this press conference is really that as Slow Food, we're trying to bring to the policy conversation in Brussels the nature of our work. As a Slow Food, as a movement, we're basically, there are many Yannicks out there in the world that are doing this fantastic work of creating relationships and finding solutions that are adapted. And what we're trying to do in the policy debate is to bring these examples, concrete examples of things that are working, where there are challenges, there are opportunities, there are solutions that are being sought, but we want to basically use these experiences to inform policymakers. And that's also the reason why, indeed, the Slow Food Earth Market is featuring in Terra Madre Europe, and it's fantastic that it's a recurring event in Brussels, so you're invited to go back and experience that space. But that is also why we're bringing directly the slow food farmers and producers and artisans and fishers on the Tuesday, so that they can be the ones telling the story. And in our experience, whenever it's them speaking directly with decision makers, it usually creates a moment where the light bulb goes off, because it's the people who experience this in their everyday life, and they tell a very different story from what is often listened to here in Brussels. So this is what, as Slow Food, we're really trying to do here, contribute to the conversation by bringing the real-life experiences of those who work in the food system day in and day out. And as Yannick said, it's the producers, the artisans, it's the cooks as well, who are such important ambassadors of sustainable food systems and can do such amazing awareness raising.
Thank you, and that makes it not storytelling, but experience sharing, and that's really what makes a difference. A very quick word, Henrietta?
Yeah, so just maybe coming back to what Natasha was also asking, I mean, I think it's, yesterday we took civil servants on a farm visit. Was yesterday? No, it was 2 days ago. And what was interesting was that it was not only civil servants from DG Agri, of course they were the majority, but there was also from Sante, climate and environment. So there is a curiosity, at least, to know more. So it's good that, you know, one thing is to take people out to the farm. It's easier when you take the farmers to Brussels. There will be more people coming. And so I personally looking very much forward. I've been in this business for many, many years, but I'm looking very much forward to this workshop on fermentation, because this is something we don't speak about it enough, but it is a potential also if we want this whole debate, EU debate about preparedness. I mean, fermentation is a way to conserve your food in the future. So even for me that has been so long, there's something new. So I hope there will be something new for all of you too.
Yannick, a quick word of how the voice of producers can be better heard?
I would say to come in fact together. So I wanted to invite everybody, producer, artisans, and chefs to come to the slow food community of Belgium. I think it's important to address it all together and not everybody in their own little parts. I think it will be stronger and less stressful also for everybody, especially in a moment of still tension when you want to make the things good, fair. It's difficult to also do it economically right, but I think we can only find those solutions all together.
Thank you very much. Thank you all for joining us. Just a final question, just in case. So thanks very much. Thanks very much for joining us this morning. Thank you also if you were following us online. And of course, our colleague Elisa is also available for questions or follow-up contacts and so on. So we hope you're all going to be joining us on June 22nd, 23rd, and 24th. Thank you very much. See you soon.